Hi, how you doing and welcome back to a video on the channel. What we have for you today is our wildcard video going to game week 27. Some of you might be looking for a bit of a team refresh after the blank and double game week. So hopefully we've got the best team for you. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. The support is really appreciated and we are closing in on 150 subscribers. So if you can help with that, that would be awesome. It is worth noting we do also have a team currently ranked 26k overall in FPL, and to be honest, if I was wildcarding this game week, this is the team I would genuinely use. So we're going to take a look at the teams to start with, and then we're going to go into specific players in a second. I'm going to start talking about Bournemouth here. Now, whilst they are on a run with no win in 7 games, they do have probably the best fixtures out of anyone in the whole Premier League. Including that double in game week 28 with Sheffield and Luton both at home. I'm not saying you need to get in Bournemouth players and play them every week, but you definitely need to bear in mind that these fixtures are pretty good for players such as Solanke. Liverpool, a bit of a mixed bag in terms of fixtures, but I think any team at the top of the table challenging for the league is definitely worth considering, mainly because they've obviously had a great season and they're going to not be rotating as much. They're going to want to be getting as many points as they can for the run-in. And you could say the same for Arsenal as well. Like, even though the fixtures aren't great, you also have to balance that with form for the teams. So for me, Arsenal players are definitely a must consider for your wildcard team. I'm also going to throw Wolves in there. Now, Wolves, like Bournemouth, have really good fixtures. I think a lot of home games as well coming up against teams that they should beat, like Fulham and Bournemouth. And even the Newcastle game that's away, well, Newcastle aren't on the best form anyway. And if you do get the occasional fixture where you don't want them, you know, they are a mid-table team, so the players should be really cheap and you can transfer them out or bench them quite easily. I'm going to finish off by talking about Spurs. Now, Spurs are a bit of an unsure entity, really, because you don't quite know what you're going to get from them, and they're also carrying a few injuries and players coming back from injuries, and still, you know, you've got Son that's still trying to fit in after the Asian Cup. So I think they're worth considering, but they're at the bottom of this list mainly because I do like the other 4 teams better to target. So let's take a look at the individual players on the team. So we're going to start by looking at the goalkeepers, and for me, you know, we talked about Bournemouth's fixtures. Neto is a great get-in at the moment. They actually play the 3 promoted teams in the next 3 games. I think at 4.6 million, he's brilliant, but you can also balance him out with Kelleher from Liverpool. We know that Alisson is out probably until the end of March, so he's going to be Liverpool's starting goalkeeper at 3.7 million. So whilst Neto is a great buy for the fixtures, I think if you don't want him and you're wildcarding, just get in Kelleher instead. He could be your starting goalkeeper for Liverpool, which looks like a great asset to be the cheapest goalkeeper in the game. I'm going to talk about Doherty first in defence. He's got 7 assists this season, which is the 3rd most in defenders. He has Palace and Bournemouth in game week 28 as a double game week player. He's not someone you're going to want in every single week, so you can rotate him in and out, but at 4.6 million, it's not a lot of money to leave on your bench. Now, I couldn't really afford Pedro Porro in this team. I've gone with Van de Ven instead, mainly because when he's fit, he starts. At 4.4 million, he's actually probably the cheapest defender we're going to have in our squad for our wildcard team. And, you know, Spurs, they're not keeping a ton of clean sheets, but I think for a team that are challenging for the top 4 positions, Van de Ven is a good option because they do play some nice teams that you wouldn't have a problem starting him in. Arsenal are our first double up today. Now, Gabriel and Saka have pretty much been in these videos all season. I think Gabriel offers such a great attacking threat from set pieces, which we know that Arsenal are great at. And Saka actually has 8 goals in his last 7 games. Villa are our second double up. Our Douglas Luiz, he actually has the 5th most points among midfielders this season, which is more than Palmer, Gordon and Bowen. And Watkins actually has the most attacking returns out of any player, which is 29, 14 goals and 15 assists. I think both of these players are fantastic value. They play some really good fixtures coming up, but they're also really in form. With Douglas Luiz at 5.6 million, you're going to struggle to find a better value player than him, other than perhaps Cole Palmer. Now, he also has 7 returns in his last 6. Now, Chelsea's fixtures are a bit mixed, but he is the main man and he still provides great value at a tremendous price, which will allow you to get in some big hitters in your team, such as Mo Salah. Now, this is more of a fear of missing out pick more than anything, and you could maybe recreate his points by spreading out the value around the rest of your team. But what you can't create is his upside. He's just behind Saka and Watkins for the most FPL points so far this season, and that's with missing a few games as well. I think just his explosiveness and being that focal point of the Liverpool attack whilst they have that title running, it's just absolutely a must get in for me. Now, I've put Haaland in this team, and he has the potential, dare I say it, to be poor value at the moment. Like, Man City are scraping through and have tough fixtures, which is why he's the only player from Man City in my team right now. But he will always score points, and he's pretty much the closest thing to a guarantee for attacking returns that you can get. Now, rounding out the starting 11 is Solanke. He has 14 goals already and incredible fixtures coming up. We talked about Bournemouth's lack of form at the start of the video, but they do have Burnley, Sheffield and Luton in the next three, including that double up in game week 28. I think for me, Solanke just edges it ahead of other strikers like possibly Ivan Toney for this starting 11, and he is a bit cheaper than those options as well. So we talked about Wolves at the start, and we're going to put them on the bench here. Now, they can come in for players that you maybe think on the odd game aren't going to play. They're a fantastic option as well for those players that maybe don't start or get rotated out in a single game week. Chan will play up front whilst Matthias Cunha is out. He's a great price, and he's already in double figures for goals this season, having also missed 4 games because of the Asian Cup. For Kilman, Wolves actually have the 8th best record for goals conceded, which might not seem like that great, but when you consider some of the teams that are below them in terms of goals conceded, it does start to look pretty good. And at 4.5 million, he's another one that you think, well, if he has a bad fixture coming up, he's only 4.5. I don't mind him being on my bench for this game week. Between sort of him, Doherty, Van de Ven, I think you could pick 2 out of 3 each game week and be pretty happy with your selection. Rounding out the 15, we've got Trusty from Sheffield United. He is our standard last bench pick and has been pretty much all season, because 3.9 million for Sheffield United, you don't really want him in your starting 11 very often. I think if he's in your starting 11, you're going to have a few injuries or a few problems for selection. I think he's just in there just because he is a cheap defender that enables you to get in other players for your team. So the team rating, when I put it into Fantasy Football Hub, shout out to them, is 94%. That is pretty good. We usually say if it's early to mid 90s, that's fantastic. There's so many variables in football in general where you can't predict with the data going into it what's going to happen, things like penalties or injuries. So 94% is a really good rating, and probably the best thing about this team is the value. Some of these players you will have already, so you will save value in your team from price rises for that. But if you were getting all these players in from scratch, they will just cost you 100.1 million, which hopefully anyone still actively playing FPL could afford. Now, when I was looking at them, the strengths, does play the fixtures and has lots of form players. I think the fixtures are really important when you're looking at wildcarding. There's something that you must focus on as well as form, which is why it's good to have form players like Watkins, Douglas Luiz, Solanke, Saka. Those players, the fixtures then become a little bit more irrelevant. If they are in form, they'll score against anyone. Now, the weaknesses, and to be fair, there's a couple. There's no triple ups, which some people might think is a bit of a strength. I think for me, could be a strength, could also be a weakness, in the sense that if you are looking to target teams which are in fantastic form and have good fixtures and put all your eggs in one basket, you're missing out. But I think we've got enough double ups, say, in this team to kind of ride that out. And there's no premium defenders as well. I think largely this is because Trent's injured, and Trippier also, he is not really in the best form for Newcastle. So I think defence is an area where you could save a lot of money. We spoke previous videos about how clean sheets are so hard to come by this season. So I think if you can save money in anywhere in your team, it would be in defence. Goals are being scored a lot later with all the extra time being added on. So I think putting that money into the attack is definitely worthwhile. So let me know what you think about the team. I think it's pretty good. Is there anyone that you would take out or anyone that you would put in? Any questions as well, just leave them in the comments. All the support is really appreciated. Hopefully you're having a good game week, and I will see you in the next one.